Hello and welcome back to the Growing Through It podcast. It's still kind of like weird for me to be saying that and weird that this is going to be like my new weekly routine, but like right now I'm okay with it. It's going to be fun. If I never shut up talking, so it's like why don't I just talk to myself for an hour, It's like it's the way to go, okay? I'm honestly just gonna like jump right in. If you didn't see last week's video, you're gonna be like, what the holy heck is she talking about? So watch that first, a little plug for me. But if you don't want to go back and watch that, here's the quick recap, all right? I got COVID, I got super, super sick and never really got better. Now I have POTS and a bunch of other conditions. I have EDS, MCAS, and I just had MALS surgery. And we're going to talk about all of the stomach issue things today and where I am right now, all right? I believe where we left off last time, I was going into my second year of college and things were getting rough, all right? Okay, so at this time, I was still living away from home. I was still living in Oregon, trying to go to school, okay? I got the flu, and that was like the worst. Thought I was gonna die, recovered from the flu, and was like, oh no, something else is wrong. Something's not right, and my stomach was in so much pain, okay? So this kind of like became a reoccurring thing that every time I would eat, I would get in this crazy excruciating pain. But this pain wasn't like normal like stomach ache pain. It was like really high up, like almost just right under my diaphragm, like someone is literally stabbing me through my body kind of pain, okay? And it kind of came out of nowhere, but looking back, like it really didn't. And I've kind of really had this my whole life, but something just kind of like triggered it to make it like almost worse. We still don't really like know kind of what really happened with that, but that's besides the point, okay? So obviously you kind of have to eat to fuel your body and to feel well, especially when you already have POTS and you're already like on the edge of having a mental breakdown and a physical breakdown every 5 seconds, So the lack of nutrition really became an issue. Again, I would eat, I would be in this terrible pain. There were so many nights I cried myself to sleep because it hurt so freaking bad. I would just be in like this fetal position, just like bawling my eyes out, like waiting to fall asleep and hoping I'd wake up with it feeling better. I even went to the emergency room a few times because the pain was so terrible, because I thought like things were like bursting. I was like, something is terribly wrong. And of course, every time I'd go, they were like, I don't know, you're fine. Get over it. You're making it up, So this was really, really kind of taking a toll on me. I started to lose a bunch of weight. I was losing hair. Things were just not going well. So obviously I was like, this needs to change. We need to figure out what the heck is going on. Again, remember, I'm living in Oregon. I'm not living where I used to live, where I used to have all my doctors, okay? I'm away in college. Now, when I go back and tell this story, like, so much of it I don't really remember, and, like, things get, like, twisted and stuff, because I'm, like, I saw so many doctors, and, like, so much happened that it's, like, I can't even, like, remember it all. So my stomach pain is, like, really getting worse, and I'm kind of at a loss at what to do, because, again, I'm not in my home state. I'm away in college in Oregon, and I was so sick that my mom ended up actually flying out to help me out. And this was like, oh my god, this was like such a godsend to me. Like, holy crap, I still like can't believe she did this, but I would not have been able to like get through it without her. But she literally came and lived in an Airbnb for 3 months, and I lived in that Airbnb. Oh my gosh, I lived in that Airbnb with her. Maybe 3 months is too long. She was there for a long time though. Anyways, I was in that Airbnb with her, and she was like feeding me. We were trying to figure out what in the heck was going on. She's going to all the appointments with me, just like really getting me through it, even like having to drive me to class and stuff, because I was so ill, okay? So I finally get into a gastroenterologist. Is that how I say that? That sounds wrong. Anyways, I see a GI person, okay? And he is like, I don't really know what's wrong with you, but let's try a scope. Let's get an endoscopy. See, I think that's right. Am I saying that right? What's going on with my medical terminology today? Anyways, he's like, let's do an endoscopy just to see, like, that'll be our starting point about what is going on, okay? And for some people, that might be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a tube stuck into my throat. That's a little frightening. But this was actually my 4th scope. So I was like, easy breezy, let's do it tomorrow, okay? I remember this because it was Valentine's Day, and I was like, wow, this is just such a lovely Valentine's Day. I get to go to the hospital. Yippee. Not that I, like, have a man to, like, be going home to, but anyways. Okay, this is where it gets kind of crazy. My insurance would not cover a scope in Oregon, but for some reason, it would cover a scope in Washington for some reason. Okay, my mom and I have to drive to Washington to go get this scope. Okay, we're staying in a hotel. I wake up bright and early on February 14th, and I'm like, hey, let's go get this done. Let's go see what the heck is wrong with me. And I get a call that the place is like, we're going to cancel your appointment because your insurance isn't covering it here, and so, like, we need to cancel. So I was like, absolutely not. We just drove out here. I'm staying in a hotel. Like, I'm getting this freaking scope, right? Like, we can appeal it with the insurance. We'll deal with that later. We went, I got the scope done, of course, came back, and it was totally normal, which was incredibly frustrating. I think everyone knows with the chronic illness, it's really weird to be like, I want to be diagnosed, I want something to be wrong with me, but it was like, I need something to be wrong with me because something is not right. So that was really, really hard to hear that everything was normal. And it's really funny, every time I get put under anesthesia, I wake up and I'm like bawling my eyes out. And so that was like not helping either. That it was like you were under like a bunch of drugs. It was just like, oh my god, this is so upsetting. So after the scope, I go back, I see my GI doctor again, and he's like, I think we need to look into like how your stomach is emptying, like if it's emptying properly. So they had me do a gastric emptying study. This was, honestly, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But definitely not one of like the more comfortable things I've had to do. And now this test, they let me get in Oregon for some reason. So, I got there like bright and early again. They have you eat eggs and a piece of toast. And then after you eat all of that, you drink like this like radioactive, is that right? Yeah. You drink this like radioactive fluid basically that lights up in your stomach. And then throughout literally like the whole day, they take pictures of your stomach and they can see how much is emptying based off of how much of that like that radioactive fluid is in your body, which is like great. Wow, I just drank that and now I'm getting like a billion x-rays. Like, talk about increasing my risk for chronic illnesses, but whatever. Went through that. That process wasn't great, especially because, like, I can't eat a lot, and obviously when I eat, I'm in pain. So it's like I had to, like, shove all this food down me, and then they were like, hey, yippee, you get to sit here forever. And I was, like, trying not to throw up, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in so much pain. So that wasn't great. And then again, that came back relatively normal. It said that I had some like mildly slow emptying, but nothing that really should like put me in as much pain as I was in. So again, they were like, don't really know what's happening. So here's the solution that the doctor gave me. He said, why don't you go home and try a liquid diet? Maybe you just are a person that can't eat solid foods. Like, are you kidding? And then he also said, you know what? I have solved it. You need peppermint. You need to take peppermint capsules, and that is going to absolutely cure you. All right. So I go back to the Airbnb that I've been living at with my mother. She buys a goddamn Vitamix, and it is the loudest Vitamix I've ever heard in my life, and I don't know why. I still have it to this day. I mean, works great, but holy cow, it's loud. And that's besides the point. And we are making tomato soup. We're making tortilla soup. We're making pureed beans. We're making mashed potatoes. All of these liquidy fluids. I'm drinking smoothie after smoothie after freaking smoothie. And after every meal, I'm in pain. Okay. And then on top of that, I'm in pain and I'm like still hungry because I had like 1/8 of a cup of tomato soup. Okay. So I'm just like so frustrated. I'm so over it. And oh, the peppermint. Surprise, surprise. It didn't solve anything, all right? In fact, it gave me like incredible heartburn, and I was just like burping up peppermint all day, and I was like, this is not the solution for me. Thank you very much. Okay. But that GI doctor was like, girl, I'm kind of at a loss for you. I don't know what to do. Okay. My year is now wrapping up at school. I've been there for 2 years, and I have lost like 15 to 20 pounds. I'm as pale can be. I'm so unbelievably ill, and I'm still trying to push through school. Again, I'm low-key delusional in thinking that like I'm fine, I can keep doing this, And we're coming to the end of my year, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this again. I don't know if I want to put myself through this again. You know, my mom is flown out here to help me. Like, she doesn't live here. She doesn't want to be here. She wants to be with her family back home. Like, my dad's at home. Like, where's my wife, you know? And so I ultimately made the really, really, really tough decision of transferring schools and moving back to my home state. This was really hard for me. You know, I left all my friends. I left this community that I had built. I left the volleyball team I was a part of. I remember going into the head coach's office, and like I sat down with her, and I had my big pro-con list, and I was like, what do you think? Like, I don't want to leave this place. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave this team. But like, what do I do? What do I do? And I remember her like looking at the list and was like, this isn't like a question. Like, your health comes first. Like, you're obviously not doing well here. Like, you can keep these friendships. You can make more friendships. Like, go get your health figured out, you know. And that was really helpful, because at this, like, I know it was my decision, but I was like, I also wanted the support of like the people around me, you know. So I, you know, packed up my last day, and that was really, really hard to leave. I have a beautiful picture of me hugging my two best friends, and we're just bawling our eyes out, because it was like, I don't get to see you guys every day. You know, I used to live 4 feet away from my best friend, and now I have to be like 4 states away, and I'm like never gonna see her, like, you know, like I'm gonna see you maybe like once a year. And like, as great as technology is, like that's gonna impact your friendship, you know. So that was really, really hard to do, and at the same time I was like, I'm giving up, you know, and I have a really hard time saying I can't do it, you know. And I was giving up on it. Like, I couldn't do it, and I understand that it's not like actually giving up, but a part of me was like, no, it is. Like, I can't do it. I gave up, and now I have to leave, you know. I also decided to leave because there was this new medical facility that was opening up in my hometown that is dedicated to like complex patients. I'm gonna get into that and see how the holy hell that went, but from this standpoint, I was like, I'm so excited to get some care. You know, I've been so lost out here. I need more support. So now I've moved home, and I've started to go to this facility. I don't know if I can say what this place was, because they are no longer functioning. They're no longer open. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't want any like legal ramifications, because this is like a clinic. This was like a hospital with like reputable people. But the stuff that went down there was like crazy. But I feel like I can't say who it is. So if you do your own research, you'll know what it is, and maybe you already do. But allegedly, it was not Metrodora Institute, okay? Moving on. I was so excited to see this facility. I walk in, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It was like I was in a spa, okay? Or a hotel. There was a fireplace. Like, it did not even remotely look like a doctor's office, okay? I'm kind of getting off topic here. Like, you don't really care about the details of what this place looked like, but it was beautiful, okay? And I went... Oh, let me back up. I almost forgot. There was this... Okay, I'm like getting so sidetracked, but it's fine. The reason I went to this place is because they had this amazing, reputable GI doctor that I had gotten an appointment with. And I was so freaking excited because she works only with complex people. And I was like, she's literally going to be the one to tell me what's wrong with me. And it is literally, and when I say literally, I mean literally, 2 days before my appointment, and we get this email from the place, and it had said that she was no longer working there. She started this place and said, just kidding, I'm left. I'm no longer doing this. Good luck to ya, okay? So that was so unbelievably devastating. I remember I got the email in my class. It was like my 10 a.m. class. I saw it, I stood up, and I walked out. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. I went and I called my mom, and she was like literally in like so much denial that she was like, it's fine. Like, we're going to figure it out. It's totally fine. And I was like, why are you not freaking out about this? You know? And then like an hour later, she called me again, like sobbing, be like, are you kidding me? I was like, thank you. This is the reaction I wanted out of you, because I was also sobbing. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I just uprooted my entire life to come to this place, and now the person up and quit, okay? Anyways, they found me a different doctor. He wasn't a GI doctor, but was like, let's get you into them for now. I went there. They ran literally every test imaginable. I've never had so much blood taken from my body. It was absolutely insane. I had to lay on the table, and they had to give me a break because they were like, you don't got more blood in you, girl, you know? The test came back. They were like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you have EDS. Okay. I kind of knew I had EDS, and this is like off topic from the stomach stuff, but it also kind of does relate. Okay. So EDS is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder, and I have hypermobile EDS. Okay, we're back at ChatGPT, and he's going to explain what EDS is to you. Okay, this is the simpler version. EDS is a condition you are born with that makes your body's glue, your collagen, weaker than usual. Collagen is what helps hold your skin, joints, and organs together. So if you have EDS, your joints are extra bendy, their skin is stretchy or soft, which low-key is a perk that I have the softest skin of all time, but anyways, they might bruise easily, heal slowly, blah, blah, blah. Basically, the building materials of their body are a bit faulty, so they are looser, stretchier, and more breakable than normal. That's great, okay? The loosey, stretchy, and more breakable or normal, that is like literally the definition of me, okay? My knees are always like subluxing, my wrists are always in pain, there's always like, you're always worried about your joints, things are always like, my ribs sometimes like pop out, like things like that. So that was kind of nice, like have that diagnosis, just because I was able to kind of like get more support with that. Okay, so they've diagnosed me with EDS, but they were like, let's still run some more things, get some more things figured out. And then surprise, surprise, that doctor left. So now I have not lost not one, but 2 doctors from this same facility, okay? So they throw me off to the 3rd doctor. This 3rd doctor was a immune person. What is the word? Immunologist. Okay. And she was like, yes, your EDS is a factor. That's probably why your stomach hurts. And she also was like, but we should look into MCAS. Okay, back to ChatGPT here. Here's their definition of MCAS. MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, is when a type of immune cells in your body called mast cells go a little haywire. Mast cells normally protect you by releasing chemicals like histamines when they're in danger, like an allergy. With MCAS, the mast cells overreact and release those chemicals too often or often at the wrong times, causing an allergy, blah, 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 blah. So I've struggled with like hives and allergies my whole life. They had said that I have some type of secondary mast cell activation syndrome, which at this point I don't really know how I feel about that. Because now I've seen other doctors who have been like, girl, you don't have MCAS, so I'm kind of still floating in the air with that. But anyways, she was like, oh, and also surprise, surprise, you are incredibly immunodeficient. So this place put me on a drug called Zolar. And I was also on immunoglobulin replacement therapy called Hizentra. Check those out if you are having allergy stuff that maybe Solar could help with allergies, and if you have some type of immunodeficiency, Hizentra has been a saving grace for me. I used to get sick every winter, as I said about my flu, but since I've been started on Hizentra, I haven't gotten sick. Okay, back to my stomach. I would also just like to add in this random story. I was maybe a week into my first semester at my new school, and I get so violently ill that I have COVID again. Okay, and so I was going through it. I get through COVID, and it's about maybe a week later, and I get the flu. Okay, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Okay, so now I've missed 2 weeks of school, mind you, and then I get this raging ear infection. I couldn't hear out of my ear for literally a month, and then I also get pink eye. Okay, so let me rerun that for you. I had COVID, then the flu, and then on top of having the flu, I also had an ear infection and I had pink eye. Okay, so if that clues you in on how my immune system and how my body in general was functioning, like things were going down and things weren't right, all right? So I was like, somebody please help me, okay? But let me get back to my stomach here, okay? I'd seen all these doctors. I was really at a loss at what to do, and as you know, because you're watching this, I do some little things on social media. I just really like to spread awareness around these types of things. And someone reached out to me who I had actually gone to elementary school with. We were great friends in elementary school, and we just kind of drifted apart, and I didn't really know where she went. She didn't really know where I went, and she ended up reaching out to me and was like, hey girl, I have POTS, do you want to get coffee sometime? So of course I was like, absolutely. I go and get coffee with this girl, and she starts telling me her life story. I obviously won't go into that because she's not here. But she starts talking about how she had this terrible pain, and that she just recently had MALS surgery. And of course, I was like, hold on, girl. As she's telling me about her life and her stomach issues, I'm like, this is too similar. Please tell me more, So I literally owe the next 2 years of my life to her, because without this coffee meet, the rest of this would not happen, okay? And so immediately after this coffee, I called my mother and said, hey girl, we need to look into MALS and we need to find this surgeon, okay? Since we were living in the same town, she got surgery from this very reputable MALS surgeon. But first off, are you thinking, what is MALS? Let me have ChatGPT explain it to you, okay? So MALS stands for median arcuate ligament syndrome. This happens when a band of tissue in your body, the median arcuate ligament, presses too hard on the big blood vessels that carry blood to your stomach and your intestines. So this pressure can squeeze the blood flow and nerves around it, causing belly pain after eating, nausea, vomiting, feeling full really fast, and weight loss since you're in so much pain. Okay. So this condition is weirdly controversial in the medical field. Some doctors literally don't even think it's a thing. Some doctors don't even know what it is. So I'm reading up about this because nobody seems to know what this is, and I'm like, I think I have this condition. I think I have this. And but while I don't say maybe don't Google your conditions, at the same time, it's when you're chronically ill, so many times that's the only resource you have. So many doctors tell you no over and over and over again that you literally have to do your own research to figure out what the heck is wrong with you, which is incredibly mind-blowing that our medical system is so terrible that your patients have to figure out what's going on with you because the doctors don't care. But that's where I am, okay? So I ended up seeing a random GI doctor and was like, hey, could you look into MALS for me? And she flat out was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, MALS isn't a thing. Like, that's not what you have. And she literally gave me antidepressants and was like, here, take this instead. Like, are you kidding me? So obviously I didn't see her again. So I reached back out to that girl I had coffee with and was like, hey, who was your surgeon? Like, who did you talk to? And I don't know if this man wants me to put his name on blast, but I'm going to, because if you're having these issues, there's not a lot of doctors that can help you. So I'm going to give you his name, okay? His name is Nathan Richards. Do with that what you will, okay? So we call up his clinic, and he's like, we get this all the time, that people are like, I don't know what to do, and the first step for you to do is run all these tests. So the first thing was a CT scan. I went and got that. Came back that my median arcuate ligament does sit lower than it should, but it didn't look like there was any like overt compression happening. So the next step was to get an ultrasound, and they really like did the ultrasound of my whole stomach. What is it called? It's not the vascular ultrasound. I don't know. Some type of ultrasound, okay? And they have you breathe in, they have you breathe out, so they can really measure the volume of blood and how that blood is decreasing, and literally like how MALS would work, okay? I remember this so well. I went and got this ultrasound, and I'm so nervous, and I'm wanting a diagnosis and wanting to know what's wrong with me, but at the same time, like, this is such a serious condition, I don't know, like, so just confused about where to go with everything. And we get done with the ultrasound, and the tech that's doing it just looks at me and was like, well, I don't see anything wrong with you, so you should be happy because you don't want MALS, okay? And as someone who was like almost like wanting this because then I could get treatment for it, that was so crushing to me. And just like literally a PSA to like all of like techs and everything, like, keep your mouth shut. Like, you don't know what people are going through and what they want, what they don't want. Like why are you out here being like, well, you don't want that? Like, are we kidding? So, of course, I left that appointment crying, called my mother, was like, he said there was nothing wrong. Like, I thought everything was lost. Like we're back to square one with we don't know what the hell is going on. But we waited for the doctor to reach out to us, and he had said, like, your numbers actually don't look great. Like, you might be an okay candidate, but let's have you go get a nerve block, okay? I had a vague idea of what a nerve block is, and maybe I shouldn't like give this in detail for anyone who is like getting a nerve block, because it might like be like, oh, but I'm going to anyways, okay? I go to this place, and they're like, we are gonna stick 2 gigantic needles through your back to reach your celiac artery, okay? Obviously I knew this wasn't going to be comfortable, but I really was not prepared for how painful this was going to be, but that's besides the point, okay? And another, like, memory that I remember so vividly, okay? They were like, do you want to be sedated? And I said, absolutely not, because I'm a tough cookie, and I want to see this, okay? I go in the room, and I'm laying on my stomach. There's, like, 5 people in the room, and the doctor's like, what music do you want to listen to? And my mom was randomly like, let's put on Adele, like, she loves Adele. And good Lord, if I didn't have Adele, I wouldn't have gone through that, okay? As stupid as that sounds, like, it was the distraction, it was the, like, I could sit there and, like focus on her amazing voice and not the excruciating pain I was in, right? So they stuck these needles all the way, literally like through my whole flippin' body, and they numbed everything up, and they sent me on my way as I'm like, oh my god, that was so painful. And it really wasn't like, I feel like it was more painful afterwards because my back was in like so much pain, because they like just like stabbed you with the needles, like they think like that's gonna really hurt your back, so basically the nerve block, they go in there and they like numb everything that would be like affected by it. So that's like a real good indication of like if the surgery is going to work or not. So what the surgeon told me to do, he said, go get that nerve block and then go eat the biggest meal of your life, right? So I went and got that nerve block, and the first pit stop I made was to Chick-fil-A. Okay, I got a giant gluten-free chicken sandwich, and I got a big fry, and I got a giant Sprite. Okay, and usually if I ate a quarter of that, I would have been in so much pain. I ate the entire sandwich, and I ate the entire fries, and I drank the whole freaking Sprite. Okay, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, this isn't hurting. Like, this is really weird. Like, I don't think it's hurting. But at the same time, I'm like trying to gaslight myself, being like, is it not hurting? Is it? Like, am I just being crazy? Is it not? And then at the same time, like, I'm in so much pain from my back pain that it's like, well, is it not hurting because my back hurts, or is it working? But my mother was like, girl, no, that worked. Like, I've never seen you eat like that. So that was like the biggest indication about what was kind of going on. I finally go and I see this doctor in person, and he was so amazing and was so kind, and my mom and I are crying, because it's so like surreal to have a doctor listen to me and to like explain what's going on and things like that. And he's like, you are one of like the tougher candidates for this surgery because your testing isn't like 1000% definitive. Like my CT wasn't like, yes, you have MALS. And so he was like, before we do anything, like, I want to make sure there's nothing going on. He had mentioned MCAS as an issue. And so I went back to that facility to kind of look into MCAS. So I'm seeing this immunologist, and at the same time, I get into this pain clinic. And this clinic is like, I'm gonna cure you, okay? Surprise, surprise, they didn't. And what their big, amazing treatment was to have me deep breathe, and was to have me do dry needling on my stomach, okay? I don't know if you've ever done dry needling, but it's not very comfortable. And when you're like doing it in your stomach, that's like even more uncomfortable. And I tell like doctors now, and they're like, you what? You had needles around your organs? Like, are you kidding? I mean, when I say stomach, I mean she would go like kind of by my ribs and like around my belly button, and she'd like go in my back and stuff. But she really thought like releasing this like fascial tissue was really gonna cure me. Which like, good on you for trying, girl, but like I went through like terrible pain every week for nothing. Like, are we kidding? Within this year of me still trying to figure out my health, I end up graduating college. I graduated with a Bachelor in Science in Public Health, and that's was really unbelievable to me. 18-year-old me would never have guessed that I was going to be able to walk across the stage with good grades and a freaking degree. But I'm not saying that was easy at all. So many days I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. I was so sick of it. It's hard enough trying to graduate college with a healthy body, but when you are constantly in pain with your stomach and constantly going through POTS flares and things like that, it's like just so many factors were telling me to stop and telling me to give up. But I don't know. I really don't know why I didn't, but I just didn't have it in me to be like, I can't do this. Like, I have to keep doing this. I have to do it. I have to do it. And I give myself a lot of props for that, and that's not something that, like, I usually say. Like, I don't really think of myself like that, but graduation day was, like, really emotional for me. I mean, obviously I didn't show it to anybody. Well, I actually did a few times cry in front of my parents, but I remember sitting at that ceremony just like in awe, because I couldn't believe that I had done it. I had so many times that were so difficult, and to sit there and be like, oh my god, I did it, I freaking did it, was really emotional, and I was filled with gratitude, and I just couldn't believe it. Do you live with a chronic illness and want to connect with people who truly get it? Check out Chronically Connected, an app created just for people with chronic conditions. Think of it as a giant group chat where everyone understands what you're going through. We have weekly prompts to spark real conversations. It's a safe space to ask questions and share experiences, and build connections with people who truly get life with a chronic illness. It's simple. Click the link in the description to join. Just make sure you upload a profile picture so we know you're real. Let's grow through this together. Check out Chronically Connected today. I'm back on the route that's like, I think we gotta do some surgery, okay? So I call the doctor up again, and I'm like, let's get an appointment. Let's see what he thinks now that all my MCAS is kind of figured out, now that I've literally exhausted every option. And he was so great. He was really like, I can't 100% say that this is gonna cure you because my testing was just so iffy. But at the same time, he was like, your nerve block worked so well that we kind of think that there's a 90% chance or above that this is gonna work. But he was really like, this is up to you. Like, it's my body. Like, it's not a quick thing that's gonna happen. So like, what do I want to do? And at this point, I've been living with this pain for over 3 years. I'm so sick of being in pain after every time you eat, especially because like I feel like just like the culture we live in is so centered around food. Every holiday, every gathering with friends, everything we do is surrounded by food. And when you can't eat that, or when you do eat it and it puts you in this terrible pain, and even on top of that, like, you need food to function. And like, I was not functioning because I couldn't eat. So I flat out told him, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't care if this works. Like, this is my last option and I gotta try it. So he said, great. And we booked the surgery. So I had MALS surgery, I think it's 9 weeks ago today. And it was probably one of the toughest things I've had to do. I knew recovery wasn't going to be fun, and I knew it was going to be really hard, and it still is really hard. But man, was it tough. But so let me explain what MALS surgery actually is. So that median arcuate ligament that's kind of sitting on top of that celiac artery, kind of crushing things, he goes in like laparoscopically and removes that ligament, so kind of cuts it out so it's no longer compressing, and then he also takes the nerves that were surrounding it out. So and a lot of MALS surgeons don't do that, don't take those extra nerves, and that's why he's such like a reputable surgeon, because he takes that extra step to take those nerves out, and it's been more successful that way. So I went into the hospital. My mother is terrified, and I think I'm just like really in denial at that point. Like, I know it's gonna be hard, but I'm just like doo. And I do remember getting wheeled back to the operating room. I remember saying goodbye to my mom, and at that point I was like holding back tears just because like it was scary. As much as I was like, I'm not scared, like it's scary. Any surgery is scary, and especially when like I've been praying so hard that this was going to be the answer. So, I'm gonna cry. I get wheeled back to the operating room. I remember praying before the anesthesia like took me out. I do that at like every procedure I have. And then 4 hours later, I woke up in the hospital. My mom kind of tells this, but the surgeon, walked out. She was waiting in the waiting room. He walked out to her and was like telling her how the surgery went, and was like, yes, your daughter had MALS. And I guess my mom just broke down in the waiting room. And I remember waking up from anesthesia and just looking at her and being like, was it MALS? Like, did I have MALS? Is it is this actually what's wrong with me, And she was like, yes, you have MALS. And I just remember just bawling my eyes out. I cried for probably like an hour straight, just because I couldn't believe that there was actually something wrong. I think part of me thought that I was still crazy. I had so many people. My God! Why am I like so emotional about this? This is literally so embarrassing. So many people told me that I was crazy, and as much as like you don't believe it, like you kind of start to, when you're like, all these tests are coming back normal, like I think you're crazy, and to hear them say this is what was wrong with you, for him to come in with pictures of my literal insides and point on a picture saying that's what was wrong and now it's gone, like that meant so much to me. The last 3 years of my life have been destroyed because of this. The last 5 years of my life have been destroyed because of chronic illness, but this pain was just so debilitating and took such a toll on me, on my mental health, on my physical health, and being able to go into a surgeon and be able to fix it was so relieving to me. So the reason that my testing was kind of iffy was just the way my anatomy was. He came in and said, he was like, you have unique anatomy. That somehow in the CT and the ultrasound, like you couldn't really see what was happening because it was kind of like tucked under things. But once he got in there, he was able to actually see what was being compressed and was able to release it. So I spent a day and a half in the hospital. I have 6 different incisions. And wow, man, I was in pain. Like I haven't had I've had one other surgery in my life, but abdominal surgery is rough, so considerable amount of pain. And after a day and a half, I was able to go home, which I was really grateful for. I was really nauseous and really sick, but at the same time, I was still just like so unbelievably grateful and so unbelievably thankful. I was just kind of in shock that it was like all of this, like everything was worth it, So I spent the next 6 weeks at my parents' house. I expected the recovery to be rough, but it was a lot rougher than I thought. My whole stomach really like blew up. I think just because of like the CO2 that they put in there, but also just kind of like the trauma that was on my body. I literally walked around without pants on for a day because none of my pants would fit me. Like my stomach had blown up that much. And I was just in so much pain. Like I couldn't lift myself up, couldn't turn, you don't think about how much you actually use your abdomen throughout the day. Talking was even difficult because you have to breathe, you have to move, so I was in a lot of pain. I watched a whole lot of movies, I bought some coloring books. I colored, but slowly I kind of got better. I really, really struggled with my nausea. There were a couple days, I'd kind of just break down just because of how sick of it I was. Just being in that much pain takes a toll on you, and then being so nauseous. And the last thing I would want to do is throw up. Spending 24 hours a day trying not to throw up is like really taxing, obviously. But here I am today, 9 weeks out. Recovery takes 3 to 6 months. So I don't 100% know what my results are going to be, but so far it's been okay. I have good days and bad days. The good days I'm not as nauseous, and when I eat, I don't notice that my stomach is upset. And then I do have bad days where I am in pain and I'm so unbelievably nauseous. But that's just part of recovery. He took out those nerves and messed so much up in my stomach that my nerves are trying to kind of reroute things. And now my body's trying to learn how to digest food properly, trying to learn how to move things around, So there's just like a lot of variables that come into play. And when you have EDS and POTS, that's also another like compounding factor into like how difficult recovery is. Deconditioning is a real thing, and laying in bed for 6 weeks straight, hardly walking 100 steps a day, definitely deconditioned my body. But I'm finally starting to work with a physical therapist again and start working on my core, start working on trying to be able to walk around a little bit better, try and be able, get back to normal, as much as I can say normal, because my life is far from normal, but get back to my normal, essentially. So I'm 8 weeks out from my surgery, but I decided to get my master's degree, you guys. I decided to get my master's degree in public health. I don't know who told me to do that. Well, actually, my professors did, because I can get it done in 10 months, okay? And I was like, I'm going to have my surgery, and then I'm going to have a month to recover, and I can go to school. And that was like literally so unbelievably difficult. And that first day of classes was so hard. My days are all day Friday and all day Saturday. I have classes. So I was there at 8:30 in the morning to like 4 p.m. The day before, I hadn't sat up straight for more than a half an hour, and I had to sit there for hours. And not only that, I had to try and listen and try and learn content. So that first week was unbelievably difficult. I left each class and would go sit in my car in the parking garage and cry in between each classes. My mom would come and bring me food and tell me that I can quit, I can stop, I can keep going, whatever. She was such a big support. And I ended up, emailing my professors and being like, hey guys, I just had surgery, so I'm really not doing well. And then I had literally one of the most embarrassing things that has literally ever happened to me. And I think just because, like, I really consider myself, like, a very tough person, and I don't like to cry in front of people, even though I low-key just cried on the internet, but that's besides the point, okay? I emailed my professors, and the next week that I saw them, one of them was like, Miss Ellie, can you stay back for a second? And I was like, shit, and this actually happened to be the drop date of the courses. So this whole day was incredibly hard for me because I was going back and forth, like, should I drop out of this program or not? Like, I don't know if I can do this. So I literally, in between every class, well, even not, like, I couldn't even make it through a class. I would go, like, halfway through class to the bathroom and literally cry in the bathroom because I was so upset that I couldn't do this and that I was just kind of, like, in the situation. Like, I'm just so sick of being sick, And so when my professor was like, Miss Ellie, can you talk to me? I was like, oh, no. Like, this isn't gonna go well. And I walked up to him and I was like, hi, and he was like, how are you? And I bursted into tears. I uncontrollably sobbed in the middle of this classroom in front of my two professors. And they were so supportive about it. But literally it was so embarrassing. Like, I was sobbing to a point, like, I couldn't get words out. Like, I was like hyperventilating, sobbing. But they were so kind, and they were like, girl, I didn't know it was this bad. So, like, in hindsight, maybe it was a good thing because now they know, like, how ill I am. But they were like, if you need to be online, like, if you need extra help, like, we're here to help you. And so that ultimately, I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. Like, I made it through 4 years being sick for my undergrad. Like, what's 10 more months, But I'm joking, though, because 10 months is actually a long time, and it's going to be freaking rough. So I decided to stick with it, and for now, that's all I'm doing. I'm trying to get through my classes. I'm trying to get better. I've got a dog. I'm trying to take care of my dog, who's the light of my life, my best friend, who I'm looking at right now, the love of my life. Just kidding, but I'm not. this has been an incredibly hard journey for me, and I know it's not over. Since that clinic closed down, I've been having to find new doctors and things like that. So with a chronic illness, you're just kind of like always going through this cycle of like getting diminished by doctors, trying to find a new doctor, getting told you're crazy, getting told you're too complicated, until you find a doctor that like will stick. And that's just like incredibly defeating and exhausting. I think as hard as these last 5 years have been in my life, I am so grateful for the people that I have around me. And developing these conditions have changed my whole outlook on life. I've learned to be so grateful for the little things, and to know that you never know what someone is going through. And ultimately, I've learned how freaking tough I am, because I've gone through a lot of crap and I've come out the other side. That side might have not been the side I wanted it to come out of, but, I got through it. I think people say all the time, like, oh my gosh, you're so positive, or like, you are so strong. And it's like, I actually don't have a choice, I live with this every single day, 24 hours a day. And me wallowing about it, like, isn't going to make it better. That doesn't mean that there's not days where I wake up and I'm so incredibly over it, and I grieve my old life, and I wish I had a healthy body, But at the same time, it's like, I don't have a choice, It actually makes me really mad when people are like, you are so positive. And it's like, I'm literally not. Like, these are the cards I was dealt. This is my only freaking option, So, and I feel like a lot of people with chronic illnesses understand what I'm saying with that. At the same time, like, living with a chronic illness sucks. And you can recognize that it sucks and it's not what you want. But you can't stop fighting for your health, and you can't stop fighting for yourself every single day. Even if that means getting up and brushing your hair that day. Maybe that's your big win. Or maybe it's you being able to walk around the block, or even get your freaking degree. Like, there's such a wide range of things that you can do for yourself that fuel you on a daily basis that you can do with a chronic illness. I don't think that made literally any sense at all. At this point, I'm delusional. I think the biggest lesson I've kind of learned in this whole freaking deal that's my life now, how important it is to advocate for your health and advocate for yourself. I've seen so many doctors who have dismissed my symptoms, who have told me that they won't help me, who have flat out told me that I am crazy and tried to put me on antidepressants to fix what's wrong with me. And that is really hard to deal with, and it's really, really easy to just kind of give in to that and accept that and just be like, this is where my health is at, and that's the best it's going to do. But I have learned to keep fighting, and if you show up to a doctor's appointment and the doctor tells you you're crazy, you get up and you leave and you schedule an appointment for a different doctor, And in the same sense, I have really learned to like stick up for myself. I think doctors get too much credit, and I think people are too nice to them. And maybe that's a controversial take, but if a doctor says something I don't agree with, or is coming off in a way that I perceive as that they are demeaning towards me, or if that they are trying to speak over me, or they don't think that I understand about my body, or they think they know my body better than me, I will sit there and fight back. I will get my really bitchy face on, and I will sit there and say, that's not okay. I don't agree with you. And I really encourage you to do the same thing, because, I mean, you're not going to see that doctor again either way. You might as well educate them on how they should talk to their patients. And maybe that's too far, but like, I think I'm so sick of it, and somebody needs to educate them, and I guess it's gonna be me, and maybe they go home and be like, oh my gosh, that girl was so rude and crazy, but maybe in the back of their head they're thinking, maybe I should learn how to talk to my patients a little different. Who knows? If I hadn't seen probably 10 to 20 doctors, like, I wouldn't have gotten the surgery. I wouldn't have figured out what was wrong with me. And it's just so, so, so important to keep advocating for yourself. And you know your body best. And so you just have to find a doctor that will literally listen to you. And that is actually so insane that we live in a world where that's hard to find. Like, are we kidding? But here we are. This is my very roundabout way of sharing my story and kind of giving you some insight into the crap that people with chronic illnesses face on a daily basis. And to show you that it's not easy to get a diagnosis. And if you're struggling to get a diagnosis, you are not alone. And again, keep advocating for yourself. You are doing absolutely amazing. I sit here at 22 years old, and I never thought this would be what my life looks like. I think we all envision these big goals and big dreams, and those kind of have to go away when you have a chronic illness. But it's so important to find new goals and to find new accessible dreams that you are capable of doing. So keep advocating for yourself, because you are strong and you are so capable of doing more than you can imagine. And give yourself some credit for waking up in the morning, because that alone is hard to do with a chronic illness. I will see you next week for another episode of the Growing Through It podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Love ya.